right, welcome everybody to another edition of Movable Book Society Zoom Show and Tell, our August edition. Hope everyone's staying cool wherever you are. Please put your locations in the chats. Yeah, as Isabel is reminding everyone, that's always great for us to know where you're located. Yeah, and we're going to have a possibly a slightly different schedule than we initially thought, but we will have plenty of time with Shawn talking about his slightly geometric metamorphic would you call them puzzles, sort of visual games? I sort of feel like they're moving to toy territory in a really fun way. But yeah, so we really wanted to do something playful. I mean, not that we're like, and almost everything this society makes is playful, but particularly visually stunning and and technically always so elegant. So yeah, Shawn, would you like to start?
Sure, just jump in. So hi everybody, we've met. I'm Shawn.
Right, yes, our previous esteemed director, of course. I think it sort of went a little too much without saying.
I'm back wearing my other hat, which is engineer and workshop instructor. And over the winter, I had an interesting prompt based on some movable structures that I'd made that I showed on Instagram, and basically someone said, can there be more of these? And how can they be more of these? And I'm like, yes, there can. So basically, I developed a workshop model around playing with movables and also playing with images on the movables, and working on the theme of metamorphosis, as you've noticed in the Zoom titling, and then also cooking up a binding for it, which was kind of fun for me too. So if you want to throw me over and spotlight the iPhone 2, the desktop over here, we can take a look at the book.
Give me 2 seconds to find it.
I think it fell all the way to the bottom of the list when I was looking at it a second ago. Yeah, it's at the very bottom. There it is. There it is. So here's the book. I also have today taught the first half of a workshop around this book. The second half is tomorrow. So my head is deep in this book right now. So, initially in the initial structures, this was one of those originals where it was just a little seed that's on the page, and then you pull a tab and a sprout emerges from the seed. And so second layer for me on this one was to have a flap that drops down underneath it. And then we're seeing a whole root system that's dropping down from the seed below. You're also going to see there's a little grub that's down here. Part of what I'm playing with in this book is talking about concept development within a book with the workshop participants. And so there's some things that are going on that are continued through the book. And this little grub is one of those things. Playing with the structure, the binding in the structure in a kind of a fun way that's counter to intuition, in that all of these folios are binding in to a little concertina on the end. So you're seeing the movables on the outside. If you open the folio, you're seeing the guts of the structure, which makes it useful instructionally. So in our second spread, starting with the chrysalis, and you pull, and it becomes a butterfly. We're all ready to see that. This also was one of the initial metamorphosis structures. But if you pull the tab a little bit more, we're going to see the mimicry that the butterfly is doing, looking like an owl. to help ward off predators. So it's kind of a 1-2 situation in this new movable context. Here we have a cone flower, and we pull, petals drop away, a finch drops into position.
Oops.
So that's 3 pull structures. And of course, within movables, we've got our pulls, we've got our wheels. So let's look at some wheels. We start with a straw with a drop, and we're going to watch the metamorphosis of that straw into a match. And the drop shape has just changed colors to become a flame. So it's kind of a double metamorphosis there. And if I keep turning, that drop turns green, the match becomes a twig. Another wheel structure on this next page. Again, I should have reset the book before we started talking, because it should start there. Got a little directional arrow down there at the bottom for the viewer to see where they're going. We're just seeing a coil. Turn the disc. Snail comes into view. We keep turning, the snail goes away. Hermit crab takes its place. We keep turning, and that snake you saw earlier comes into view. So in this case, using the metamorphosis to take what initially looked like a shell and turning it into something entirely different. So then I wanted to play around a little bit with a setup. And so here, the 1-2 of the reveal is actually a 1-2-3, and it's happening over 2 different spreads. So in this first one, obviously, very simply, this broken heart gets mended. It's very cheerful. Pay close attention to the crack lines here, because then we turn to this next spread where we see our chicken, and we pull, and we reveal part of an egg, and the remainder of the egg, and the egg is now whole, and there's that crack line again. But if I keep pulling, we find it's not a chicken that's hatching out of that egg, but instead a snake. And then it's a little bit of a callback to the snake that we saw a couple of spreads earlier. And then, of course, with the crack callback, it's a double callback. Next spread, using a very traditional radial dissolve or iris dissolve. Lots of you have seen these. And so the very simple metamorphosis of this is a hedgehog rolling itself up into its cozy shape. I thought for a long time about kind of riffing on, radial saws and having that kind of play like visually. There's also kind of an interesting play between the shape that is here and the cone of our cone flower. And our lightning bug. The first transformation is simply watching the lightning bug light. And of course, the callback here is our lightning bug grub from the first spread. But the lightning bug calls, and then the response is this. Was kind of attracted to that idea back with the hedgehog and the radial saw, playing a metamorphosis between a human-made thing and a natural thing. So that's where this one comes into play. We have our umbrella in the rain, obviously, and when we turn our wheel, our umbrella is transformed, and of course, so for the people that are in the class that are here now, you're getting all of the tips on the callbacks. Nice cozy bowl of soup. There's a jellyfish, another one of those human-made things turning into natural. And then finally, another type of radial dissolve, where our peacock is to throw up all those tail feathers.
Thank you.
When I am
Cool things.
when I'm working on my own stuff, but also when I'm working on workshop materials, as you saw through this book, basically everything that I'm making and I'm sharing with other people is developed by using cut paper. There aren't any printed images. And so it makes it a little challenging here and there to get a full cut paper image, also knowing that things have to be able to be developed and managed during the course of a workshop. So it's fun to drop all these little dots, have some interesting contouring going on there. Also, relative to most iris dissolves, the bottom of it is dropped out to make the shape work. But that is spread 12. And as I mentioned, I developed this binding specifically for this project. And there is no glue and no stitching in this binding. All of the individual folios tab into the concertina, which is the gray area back there, the gray area that you can see from the top. So since they all tab in, they all can be tabbed back out again. So it makes for a very flexible binding. And then that concertina tabs into the case, and the ends of the case fold over and tuck under the tab ends. The latch slots in there at the corner and wraps to catch. It's a tidy little package. I became so kind of in love with this binding approach that I developed a second whole little thing that is making blank books just using the binding structure. And of course, if folks are at all interested in what's going on over here at my house, jump on over to ShawnSheehy.com or visit me on Instagram. I teach workshops all the time. I've got pre-recorded workshops on my website. I've got DIY stuffs and PDFs. Lots going on all the time. Would love for you to join me there. And I'm gonna zip away from the books and turn back over to my other camera view and pass the mic back to Suzanne.
Okay, it looks like we have a bunch of questions for you in the chat, mostly about wanting to be taught how to do this. The binding are getting a lot of love. Let's see. Michaela Kenning says, where can I sign up for a copy? Great work, Shawn. I guess website, or do we have to ask really, really nicely?
Isabel has graciously, thank you, Isabel, just dropped it right in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was on the email that I sent out initially too, so it's good to have them in both places.
I'm also eminently Googleable.
Exactly. So are you going to be doing any bindings only workshops? It seems like there's some questions about that specifically.
There are 2 in my calendar already There's one. The second one's been discussed. I don't think I have it listed yet. But the blank is also one of my pre-recordeds. You can go and you can get the recording at any time for a very small fee. Also, it's worth noting too that for both of these, if you sign up, you get a kit. So you're not cutting anything, you're just assembling the pieces of the kit that I sent to you.
Perfect. Then
Beverly, yours is coming tomorrow or the next day.
yeah, no, I have to say that the hedgehog got, I think, the most love of the animals. I guess there is a whole medieval tradition of the hedgehog rolling around and supposedly picking up berries. So if you ever do a more and even if you want to go another step, add some berries to the outer edge. It is beyond adorable.
Nice.
I really love that.
I'm taking note.
Okay, I don't think it's a real animal habit, though. I don't think that really happens. Yeah. Did anyone?
Shawn goes medieval, trademark. Thanks, Gene.
That's great. Okay. Oh yeah. So all scales of miniatures. I mean, how small or big could this binding style go, do you think, to be functional?
Well, curiously,
a couple of different sizes there.
I mean, obviously this one is a little larger, and this one has the movables in it. And if I reach my arm over and I point to here, I'm pointing at my plotter cutter, which is the machine that I use to cut the kits, and it can't accommodate this size case. These have to be hand cut. This is as big as they can get and still be cut by machine, which is why it is this size.
What's that size, Shawn?
And this size is 4.5 by 6 1/8 by 3/8, more or less.
That's not bad. That's like a large postcard, with like a regular size postcard almost.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good size. I like it.
If it went smaller, it would probably have to be reduced to just 2 straps around the spine rather than 3.
Yeah, sounds like that would be better for less movable. But yeah, I mean, it seems like it has a really nice support mechanism, though. For that's a lot of openings. Yeah. Okay.
Katie agreed.
Yeah. Did you was there any particular way you chose your characters for this set? Going deep on the iconography here.
Right. I mean, it was mostly, starting from that initial theme. Again, I had a simple, here are the models right here. It was an Earth Day thing that I did for one of the centers. So just super simple, chrysalis to butterfly, super simple. The other one, super simple, just the seed to the sprout, and it's fatigued. There we go. And the prompter, this human, who said, "Those are great, do more of those." And I thought, okay. And then I thought, all right, so these 2 things represent this idea of metamorphosis really well and very simply and iconically, and we see that a lot in terms of transformation, caterpillar to butterfly. To then take that idea and expand it over something that's book length was immediately challenging. So having to kind of think outside of the box about what things transform and how they transform So ultimately, it was kind of just picking things that are really interesting in the way that they transform, I suppose. And then finding ways to, link them back to earlier spreads.
Yeah, no, Gene is mentioning Ovid in the comments, and I rather like how, unlike a lot of mythology, you have the opportunity. I mean, it keeps going. You don't get stuck in one particular spot. You can turn the wheel and have the whole thing happen again. It's not a permanent change. So that's offers a little more flexibility. Okay, we should probably move on to the Foliage library, but would you be willing to show, I mean, Emily Martin's asking, could we see how the pages tab in and out before we move on?
Jump over super quick, if you will.
Can we, if we can spotlight that iPhone?
Yeah, we're trying to find it.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah.
Let's do it this way. I'll let that concertina kind of spill out a little bit. And then if you look into the inside, you can see where the folios have been tabbed in. And each of the individual folios fold down the center, and the tabs are cut from the folio, so it's all one piece. And then they just tab in and lock.
Wow, it's a flower. It's becoming its own creature there, or moving. Beautiful.
And Emily, I can do a highly dissected version later if you want to.
All right. Well, thank you so much
Yeah.
for showing us the innards there. Yeah. So yeah, let's move on. Oh, thank you. Let's move on to the Foliage library. So how do you have a separate camera? You want spotlit? What's the best way to set you two up? Matt Holbein and Emily Brooks, who are there somewhere. Let me oh, there you go. Welcome. And I know you were at the last conference. So I think some of us are familiar with it. And I think Shawn just said your class today really enjoyed looking at some of your work as well.
Huh?
Was that Shawn? Did you say that?
I did.
Yes. So so it seems like it's getting out there in all sorts of good ways. Do you want to just have the two of you spotlight at once? Is that good?
Yeah, we don't have a fancy overhead camera, so I was going to go through the book just here on my laptop, and then we have a couple slides showing some of the process that I can share my screen, so we can look at those.
That sounds great. I'll get out of the way.
Right. Well, our newest book is all about forests and the fractal patterns found in nature, with a subtext about forest fires. We have fantastic forest fractals reveals into fearsome forest fires on the front.
And similar to Shawn's books, we do take into consideration like the form of the book. Each of our books is a different shape, and kind of the subject matter relates conceptually to each shape. So we also kind of play between the image and how it relates to the shape, which, yeah, going in, you'll see.
And yeah, this one, we chose a pentagon because there's a weird mathematical relationship between the Fibonacci sequence and the angles of a regular pentagon, where I did a lot of research on it leading up to making this book, but now the details are a little bit fuzzy.
There also happens to be 5 families of evergreen trees, so that worked out nicely.
Yeah. But before we had advanced mathematical things, they used the spiral to approximate the angles to actually build buildings and things in a pentagon. But it starts with 5 families of evergreen trees all on the outside. Each one has a little number next to it, and on the inside of the lid there's a little removable fact book where there's the common scientific names and a little fact about every different kind of plant that, well, plants and a couple animals, because we have snails, and are snails the only animal?
And
Oh,
fungi.
Matt, could you put the book a little bit higher? It looks
Yes,
like it's getting,
sorry.
there you go, perfect.
There we go. That's
Yeah.
good.
So yeah, everything in here has a number so you can identify it and read a little fact about it. Starting with, yeah, the largest trees, we did 2 species of each like family of tree. So one on the inside and one on the outside. There's 5 of them. And then on the inside, each one has a different species of ferns that go under it.
And we kind of have used like the frame structure as like the ground line here. So we have like a creek that runs around and ferns kind of grow where it's damp, so that made sense to put them there. And then also considering the shape, you know, like when you like set up camp, usually like you set up tents kind of like around like a campfire in the middle, which is kind of what we did here with the circle of ring of tents.
This was also our first foray into adding lift flaps to the geometric structures that we make. So all of the tents flaps open up. It's hard to do with one hand. Inside each tent, we have one thing that will potentially start a fire in the forest, and one thing you could use to put out a fire if there's fire in the forest where you are. So there's a little scavenger hunt going on in there, and there's a spread in the fact book that kind of walks through all the different things that are in there and explains how they can start or stop fire. We then move on to deciduous trees. We have actually 10 species of deciduous trees in here. There's 2 on each flap. Opening up into flowering bushes, 5 types of flowering bushes, 5 types of fungi that are under them. We have 5 types of snails going around the edges here, 5 types of forest flowers, and then actually 5 different species of mosses that cover the frame underneath all of it.
We just had to keep going smaller and smaller like a fractal. Also like, you know, big, huge pine trees down to like the smallest. Yeah, the structure of the moss is actually really amazing. There's one, it's called the tiny fern moss, and it does in fact look like tiny ferns. It's very beautiful.
Then the centerpiece in the center, there's 5 stumps around the edges, which are the only thing in here actually that don't have numbers, but they are some of the same species that you see earlier in the book. And then this fire in the middle does a twisty platform top.
It feels so good. The material it's made out of is like a matte lamination, and it's like a heavy weight or heavier weight. That's actually a little lighter to allow it to spin without too much tension.
Yeah,
But
the heavier weight one was
too much.
a bit too much.
But the top is heavyweight, so it like really has like a solid, like the fire piece that sits on top of the spinning part.
And then down in the very, very center, see if the light is enough to catch this. Maybe not.
There's a tiny match.
There's the match that started the fire.
I think it's in one of the pictures in the slides.
It is. My lighting is just bad here. Yes. Okay.
I'll put
We'll
an ad
we'll see
again.
that in a minute when we get to this one. But yeah, this was
Our smallest book.
the first odd-sided book that we made, and we've gotten a lot of comments being like, "Oh, this is so much smaller than all your other books," because all the other ones, there's a flap that opens, and then that whole shape opens up into another shape, which was very challenging to try to do with an odd-sided shape.
Yeah, this is
Motivated the addition of the flaps. Oh, we didn't even talk about the fire. All the different trees have flaps where they all catch on fire. And they all tuck down at the bottom, so you can set them to stay open and open the whole thing and make it look like the whole book's on fire.
We were kind of inspired to turn it into from like a forest book into a forest fire book, but yeah, we'll get to that also in our little slideshow. This book was a real process. Like we went through more phases of it than any other book. There were more prototypes, more of a development stage, and so we wanted to share that with everyone today, just so you can see each book does kind of develop in its own way. But yeah, this one was a real. Matt does this. He does this. I wouldn't.
Well,
No.
you do all of the amazing illustrations. So.
Yeah, it's kind of simple, but with the color, it's like effective. You know, you get the kind of the intensity. Yeah, with the color change.
Yeah.
So yeah, here it is here. I have one of the little ones. Matt makes all these folding structures first to decide like the order of the layers. And then sketching it.
Yeah, little dummy of figuring out how the folds are kind of gonna work together. And then Emily does her thing, starts drawing amazing ink drawings to go in them.
Yeah, this one was a little impractical because I inked right in the book, which maybe I had to redo some of the drawing because we changed the layout slightly, and which was okay, but I couldn't help myself. I wanted to see it all in the book. And it was really wonderful to see that too. And then see here in the bottom corner here, we've added in the layer of tents. So the ferns, which were originally up on the outside here, this is where the tents are now, but this is where the ferns originally were. So I had to redraw the ferns kind of smaller and like a different shape. Because there were the flowering bushes. Yeah.
Everything got rearranged.
Oh, so they're under the evergreen trees. Oh, interesting fact, not all conifers are evergreen and not all evergreens are conifers. I was just so surprised to learn that there are deciduous conifer trees, most notably the larch here in North America. You might see it. It drops all its needles in the fall and then grows them back in the spring.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy.
We moved into some color experiment.
Yeah, I colored that one with colored pencil up there in the corner. Again, I couldn't help myself. I was like, I can't wait. I want to see what it looks like. And then yeah, Matt made the kind of a color dummy there.
Yeah, figuring out how the lift flaps would work, and all of them are actually like the triangle that is the flap is folded along one edge so that it's all like the whole layer is still one piece and the flat part is just an extension that gets folded over.
Yeah, it's like two layer, or there's a top layer on the evergreen trees right on the outside here.
Actually in the printing ones. This was just an earlier experiment that led to the fire pops up in the middle. Someday I want to come back to this and make a giant tower.
Yeah, that would be yeah, the Septagon was a hard shape though.
This is the finished book. In the picture on the right here, you can see all the fire flaps folded down, so the whole thing looks like it's on fire.
Yeah, it looks like the forest caught fire. We were really in the process of making just a book about forest fractals.
Yes.
That's why it was going to be called 55 forest fractals.
Yeah.
But all the smoke from the forest fires the past few years, we've been really
4:30 down. I will change it. Super, thank you.
And
it's okay, either or, whatever works for you.
Last October we did a kick. This is now our fourth book
on Kickstarter, 6th book overall. Yeah.
So yeah, last October we ran the Kickstarter, which was going on during the conference. I know I talked to a bunch of people there about it. This is our book before, but I just really love these pictures of the giant die plates they make when they're printing them.
A giant cookie cutter stamp.
Really cool to kind of see that process, and they never sent us that for the forest book.
Yeah, we did get some of these pictures here.
Yeah, and this here you can see with these tents, the triangle and then the outside flap triangle just folds on top and glues around the edges. And that's how it all stays as one piece, and it all.
Yeah, so it's like minimizes the amount of like separate pieces and like connection points, which is the downfall of many good pop-up book.
These are just our previous books. The B book, 24-Hour Flowers and Coral Reefs, are all our published books. The other two, we only make handmade ones, which is its whole own process.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the process stuff for this book. And oh yeah, there's the match in the middle.
Yeah, all like the insides of that tower too, when you fold them down, but open the fire, they look like logs like spinning around. We really thought it, like, you really think about it. I think the turning point was probably the Coral Reef book, where we really started to consider like all surfaces of the book. The B book and 24-Hour Flowers just like have a repeat pattern.
Yeah, covering the backs of the page.
24-Hour Flowers right here. This is one of the earlier versions of 24-Hour Flowers, but yeah, you can see it's just like.
At least we didn't leave it white.
We didn't leave it white. Yeah, we at least made this awesome repeat pattern. Pattern making is pretty fun.
Sort of a horror vacui, nature abhorring a vacuum going on there. You had the right instincts. We had a couple of questions about your process. How do you split up the different parts of design and the illustration? How often do you go back and forth? And you mentioned moving the drawings around, and how does that like planning work?
Well, Dropbox is a big help, because we're able to save files back to Dropbox, and then because I live in upstate New York and Matt lives in Pittsburgh,
where we actually do all of this stuff long distance. Since we met in college and made one book at the very end, and then both moved back to our hometowns, and then we do it all long distance. But originally I did the paper engineering and Emily did the illustration for like the first couple things we were doing together. But as we keep doing more and more, the lines get blurred.
For sure. Yeah.
But still, like the most solid like roles are ROLES, not RULES, that we have, is all of the art is originally drawn by hand in pen and ink by Emily. And all of the like first experimental structures are folded by me.
Yeah.
And then we just get together, talk about it, try stuff out, move stuff around on the computer.
Sometimes he mails these to me and I sketch in them and like take pictures and send pictures back, or I make my own. Usually I like it better when I'm sent one. But I don't mind making my own. It's good to learn, because we wrote a patent together for some of these folding designs and did the patent illustration together. So like to get really familiar with how this like shapely accordion fold happens. Yeah, and there's also a template up for free on our website too, which you can make your own simple little one. Yeah, just like with a big piece of paper.
That's great.
Yeah.
A very specific question from Katie Smith. What pen and colored pencils do you use?
Oh yeah, so we actually don't really use colored pencil. I just did on that one.
Or the pen.
Yeah, I use mainly Bristol board with like rapidograph pen, but also like brush and ink. Just like a thin brush sometimes, really, there's nothing that beats it. And then I scan that in and kind of delete all the white in Photoshop. And then I send Matt like a PDF with like a blank background, and then he colors behind it all in Illustrator.
I typically take Emily's scanned and refined ink drawings, bring them into Illustrator, and do all of the color that you see printed here digitally in Illustrator.
We also started coloring the line work, which is like a clipping mask in Photoshop. That kind of gets edited back and forth between.
If you look at this mushroom, you can see like gradients of brown within the dots. All of those dots were just black, part of the black ink that then got masked in Photoshop and textured.
Yeah. Oh, and we do photo texture too, which is kind of cool. Like we got like an image. I took a picture of trees in the woods, like straight up. So like they all coming in from the top, and that's actually behind on the lid.
Well, it's on.
Oh, it's behind that too. It's behind all the
trees.
Yeah,
a lot of the background textures are just photos that we took that are kind of like gone through a bunch of filters and colors and layers and stuff to go behind the drawings.
Yeah, it kind of saves us some time. It like makes it adds us like a quality to it that, yeah, it's subtle, but it kind of adds to the experience, I think, of the, you know, looking at it all. It really makes you feel like more like you're in the woods.
More detail.
More detail.
Do you assemble each of these by hand, or do you send it to an assembly plant?
The published ones, we use what we have raised on Kickstarter to have them printed and assembled. We receive them fully assembled.
All from the same place. It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Just the two that are sunflowers and moonflowers and daisies and dandelions. We've never done that, and we'd every year make usually just like 1 or 2 copies, depending on if anyone has bought one. This past year we didn't make any because no one had bought one.
Yeah, there's kind of was like a reflection. Yeah, I guess, you know, with COVID and everything, not everyone can spend $200 to $250 on like a handmade art book. You know, it's kind of a reflection of that. We did kind of pivot to pop-up cards, because we figured more people would be sending cards during COVID. Our Coral Reef book came out like right at the beginning of COVID, which, you know, yeah, you just got to go with the times. But yeah. And oh, I see someone asked about our other 2 books that we didn't do Kickstarter for yet. We have no plans to launch a Kickstarter for them at the moment, because they don't really feature kind of like they don't have like an environmental like call to action like some of our other ones have, that kind of we think are like we're more proud of them, and they kind of have more success. Like the Bee book talks about colony collapse disorder. A coral reef shows like ocean pollution and coral bleaching with like warming ocean temperatures, and the backside of that has like all ocean pollution imagery. And this forest one, obviously with the forest fires, I guess 24-hour flowers didn't really, that's kind of the black sheep of the family anyway, because it has a biradial
non-radial.
Yeah, it has this spine, which none of our other books have.
We eventually, hopefully.
Yeah, eventually we want to.
This is a kind of a side project for us both, so we only have the time we have to do it.
Yeah. So right, and we also would like to make like a new kind of second edition of the bee book with a fact booklet to include more information about bees and like how awesome they are. Because that was something we implemented with the Coral Reef book. So the first 2 books on Kickstarter, this one and the bee book, don't have the fact booklet. And yeah, that's kind of like a nice element. Although it's a whole other layer of research. So that's also...
That practically takes longer than making
Yeah,
that.
honestly, we didn't know what we were getting into. But it's worth it to have something that, you know, you really think that you made it the best it could be.
It's not just art, it's also a tool.
Yeah, it's like a learning tool, it's more fun than just kind of really like Shawn's progression of the seed, and like it's kind of like to see it and move it yourself I feel like that the learning sinks in more, I guess. Yeah.
Hands-on learning, best
Yeah,
time.
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a question. So can we buy those t-shirts is one question.
Oh,
And
you
now,
can buy a poster of this. This is the
Poster?
poster. It's every single flower in, well, except for the forest book. It's all the flowers
And the art.
in our previous books around one central logo.
But we don't have the shirts for sale.
Yeah, we just wear them to.
We only printed a couple to wear to like the art festivals and things where we go with the books.
Yeah.
That's great branding. And again, one more nitty-gritty question from April Cabalungan, who I think just sent it to me directly. Just wondering what's the GSM of the paper you use, especially anticipating the number of folds per petal and the weight of the book. So how do you plan for the structure?
Right. So it's like a thin window because it needs to be thick enough to feel good, but also not too thick we do a kiss cut. We have it's like they cut halfway through the paper.
But I believe this is 400 GSM, but most of the parts where there's a flap, so it folds over, so it's actually doubled. So it feels like basically. Some of our earlier ones, the B-Book and 24-Hour Flowers, are both a thinner material with a gloss lamination that makes it very springy.
Yeah.
So they need like a band to hold the whole thing shut.
Yeah, this one does have a belt.
The lamination is too springy, but
yeah,
with the thicker material and the kiss cut, we've kind of, I think, found the right groove for these structures. And the kiss cut especially lets kind of where all these folds are intersecting happen without big bumps and things getting weird.
We also did something on the forest book to help relieve pressure with the central. Right? Yeah.
We measured the depth based on like how many layers of paper are folding on top of each other. And this one is kind of nested down here, and we put it on a little accordion fold so the whole thing can like squish up and down on the side. So it can be pushed closed, but then when you open it, it doesn't stress out the hinge that's right here.
By trying to be pushed flat on top of the tents, it was like causing tension with the glue point in the corner.
Just keep coming.
To combat that, we made it on like a little riser, like almost like those Skechers shoes with like the shocks in the heel. We put it on one of those, and so it can come up and like lay flat on top of the circle of tents.
I had that idea and it worked on the first try, and I was like, oh my god, nothing ever works on the first try.
On the first try. Yeah, it was good.
All right, well, this is fantastic. Thank you much. I'm going to have to go find some fried artichokes in my neighborhood after looking at the layering. It's sort of the just delicious book, I have to say.
Thank you so much.
So let's and very, very beautiful. I think we'll move on to Marianne talking about some other visual narrative in her current. Is it still on?
It's still on, and I will speak for 3 minutes in Frankfurt because I'm also including, so I'll be very quick. Let me share my screen. But Suzanne very generously, very graciously asked me if I wanted to talk about this show. I had a show open up at the Struwwelpeter Museum in Frankfurt. This conversation started in 2015 because this is an old body of work, and then they were moving into a new building. So we resumed the conversation in 2019, and the show was supposed to happen in spring of 2020, and then COVID happened. So it finally happened. And if you're in Frankfurt, it is occupies 2 buildings in the newly restored downtown, and it's a beautiful, lovely museum. And So it's a 2-room exhibition. I just wanted to give you a layout of that and then a walkthrough. So yeah, these are the original hand assembled limited edition pieces. And then there's a separate room that also has more books, but so you can see the display case, some of the originals. We also built a, you know, this amazing pop-up guy. And it's been really nice to see everything there because these are old pieces and these are actually how I learned to make pop-up books, was through these stories. But the part that's really exciting that I want to focus on as well, if you're in Frankfurt, is actually the results of these 3 people. That's Beate Korn van Bibbenberg, who's the director of the museum, and Walter and Nadine Sauer. Walter and Nadine have a collection, a massive collection of books, 2,000 alone on the Struwelpeter. And so the show is called the Pop-Up Struwelpeter because we actually have the work in conversation. So I don't know if you can see in the photo on the right-hand side, you can see that there's this sort of tunnel book. So what was really fun for me actually was because it took maybe half a day to install my stuff. I got to work and install the rest of them. And so this is actually a tunnel book of the London tunnel from 1830, where viewers, anyone who attends, can also get a magnifying glass and really look into the book, which is just really quite beautiful. And it was actually kind of amazing to work with Roland to figure out how to install it safely. There's also the Meggendorfer books on the Struwelpeter as well that are on view, and others. So you can see Massimo's book is there, but then they brought in other books around pop-ups and movable books. So you can see Walter Trier's 1949, 8,192 Crazy People. Here's a detail. And also Meggendorfer's pop-up house is also closed, but because it was actually too big when open to fit in any display case. But if you're interested, and I'll stop sharing the screen, the show is up until February 16th. So if you're in Frankfurt, you know, it's a nice, really lovely museum. And so thanks, Suzanne, for letting me give a little plug about it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we don't want people who can get there miss it. I love the Puppenhaus, Meggendorfer, you know, being incapable of restraint. I mean, you can't actually.
Yeah, we sort of opened it up and it couldn't fit in anything. So
no, but usually that's an Audubon, you know, so that's actually putting it on the same level as you know, a double elephant folio at that point, where you have to make it its own case. Let's see, was that Ellen? Was that Ellen asking if you it was there a catalog? Oh, Kyra Hicks. Is there a catalog for the
you
show?
know, I don't know if there wasn't when we installed it, and there's been talk about it. I'll let you know of a catalog. There is a catalog at some point.
And I wish I could come see it. But
Thank you.
that's wonderful. All right, and then last but not least, we have something a little different in terms of sort of approaches for paper engineering. So let me see if make sure you can share your screen, Ziad. But we were a student at University of Florida, seemingly getting really interested in paper engineering. I hope we'll see more of you on at our conference and other ways coming up. But then you wanted to share this sort of puzzle game that you're working on. Is it? So you're still muted. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So just tell us about it.
So I'm just putting
we
in
can
the
run a
chat.
little over 4, so don't worry if you need a little more time.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Hi, everyone. So I just put a little overview of what I'm talking about today in the chat. I've been working on making pop-ups online through a few different softwares. Here, I'll show you my first test. Are we seeing this on the screen right now?
Mhm.
So this is a castle pattern from popupology.com. I did not make this pattern, but I did make it digitally. So what we have here is you can touch the slider and you can fold the page up. And this is all created digitally. This is something that you can put in the browser for, I think this has educational uses. And it also is a nice preview. It lets someone sort of get their hands on it, their cursor on the pop-up that you've worked so hard on. So this was the prototype. It doesn't actually have the properties of paper. So it doesn't bend as nicely as paper. It pokes through a little bit down here. You might be able to see. But I thought that this would be cool to share. And I took this prototype and let me share another part of my screen. And over the summer, I was able to start working on a game, or to work on a game for one of my classes. I posted the link. You can play it online if you would like to. You don't have to download anything. So this is an educational game about what to do in the event of a flood. So what hazards should you avoid? And generally what to do. So this is who we are controlling. You can see their little game piece. And the objective is to get to this flag area, get to higher ground before the water rises. So just to show you a little bit of how the player works, we're moving up here and the water's gonna rise and our radio is telling us, good job. So we get to the end and it's a good job. So this is generally what the game is about, but the pop-up folds, they come in over here. These special sheets of paper in front of you are pop-up folds, and I'll show you how they work. So right now, the tiles that are highlighted, these are where we can go. We're trying to get here, but there's no path for us to get there. So we highlight the pop-up, or it's not a pop-up, but it's a fold. We select it, and we move it down, and then boom, the pathway is open for you. So, and here is actually, we have a pop-up. We're trying to get to the flag at the end. So we select this, we pull it up, and boom. Now we can walk over here, and we've completed that level. So to go with the theme of metamorphosis, throughout the game, it is a puzzle game. You are using the folds in different ways to get yourself back to this flag area. So in this example, you can see there's a downed electrical wire. You have to be careful about that. This is part of the educational flood aspect. So we're gonna get over here. And so far we're thinking about the folds as bridges. We saw it as a pop-up, but now we can use the folds to push this bus over here to us. I don't recommend doing this in an actual flood event, but we thought it would make for a cool level. And you get over here. So I'm just gonna go through and show you what else we've done with the pop-ups to get to the flag at the end of this level. You need to get these blocks in position. So what you're gonna do is you need to block it, and then boom, you made a little path to the exit. Next level. Oh, and I made this with a team. I was the main person in charge of the pop-ups, so I'm here talking about them today. But of course, this was with a team. Credit to my team. And we made this in Kyoto over the summer, Kyoto, Japan. So some of these environments are inspired by places in Kyoto. So here, another different way to use the pop-ups is if we get up here, you can see that our way is blocked by this rock. So we're going to use this fold over here to shoot a rock like a catapult. and the way it opens up for us. I'm not sure how much time we have, but yeah, I'll keep. And over here, they can also catapult the player. I just wanted to show that quickly. So use the fold and throw yourself to the end. Also don't recommend that during a flood. So I'll show you here. If there's intense rains that cause a flood, you have to be careful of landslides near a cliff. This is what this level is educating about. So if you walk through, you'll get hit by a rock and you'll get crushed. So what you need to do is you need to use 2 folds this time and make yourself a little shelter. So that's another way of using the folds, shelter, and you'll be able to walk through safely. Next level, here's the last level. When you're in a fold, or sorry, in a flood, be careful of rushing water. This is a little bit extreme, but even a small amount of rushing water at your feet can make you trip and fall or get washed away, like here. So yeah, that's the main part of the game. When the player gets to the end, they made it safely to the flood evacuation area, and Flooded Folds is the name of the game.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. Let me see. We probably have some questions. Lots of excitement for playing this. I think I'll probably get a number of people going and checking it out. Let's see. Which was your favorite? Which was your favorite use of folds in this?
I think it was fun for me on that landslide level with the intense rains that can cause rocks to fall. I think it was fun. It's a little finicky, but getting the fold to form a tent for the player, as so they can think of it as shelter. I thought that was fun, and of course catapulting. I think Isabel liked the catapulting. I like the catapulting too.
Yeah, so let's I mean we can bring back Shawn and Emily and Matt. So do you have any more thoughts on what should be done next with sort of metamorphosis and pop-ups? Is there another way we could take this that would sort of push forward? I don't know. What are you thinking next? Or are you going to do something entirely different? Oh, not hearing anything. Going to have a well-earned rest after approximately 12 different classes and events today, Shawn.
Yeah, Suzanne, they've already done enough. I mean, come on.
All right. I know.
Pretty much in the middle of the right now.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked the castle. Because at one point Matt and I had discussed kind of a way to digitize our books, and the way you were able to create the digital fold. I guess that was, to me, I was like, wow, like could we go further with that and like make it like an accordion fold? And like I was because in a past conference, a different Emily Brooks was a speaker, and she was working on digitizing pop-up books, I believe, I forget what city in Florida. I wish I got my picture taken with her. That was awesome. And but anyway, because I had thought that's what she was doing, was what you had just done with the castle. So I really liked that. Personally, that was like, I'm amazed by that you could do that. I feel like I'm stuck in the dark ages with my pen and ink.
No, it was really beautiful.
But I like the
I think-
architectuality of the two of your pieces, though. I mean, there's so much upward movement in a number of ways. So yeah. So
Yeah,
the more
I was
things
very
you-
impressed by the twisting motion.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're talking about, I meant the upward of your, like how you were able to create a
Oh.
3D thing and with all the shadows and everything. That was just, yeah,
Thank you.
pretty amazing.
I think there's a lot of room for improvement because the castle, it is more complex, sort of pop up than what I was able to make in 2 months with my team in the game.
Right.
I think in my head, an educational version of the castle, it allows the person to use their mouse and click on the fold, and instead of using a slider back and forth, they can drag it up like in the digital space. And
Oh,
they
like
can
even like touchscreen,
yeah, that could
interact-
work for
that would
touchscreen.
be-
That's great.
That would
Yeah.
that'd be awesome. I mean, if there's a way to like make a whole virtual pop-up book and like get it to look, you know what I mean? I feel like that would be, wow. Yeah, next level.
Great. Well, thank you.
I'll
Oh,
make
you got Shawn.
a little forecasting here, and intersecting of digital and physical. A number of folks are being organized by the people of Chibitronics to be involved in Pop-Uptober as a team. And all of a sudden I'm wondering if I'm supposed to say that out loud yet. Sorry, folks, if I'm not. But Pop-Uptober, it's only a little over a month away. So I hope folks are thinking about that already. And I think be excited about what's going to be coming from Team Chibitronics for Pop-Uptober, integrating some circuitry into some October themed pop-ups.
That's cool.
All right. Well, I guess we'll look forward to that. So yeah, we're over time now. But if anyone wants to chime in and has questions or just a quick thing they want to share, you're welcome to. But otherwise, I think maybe we'll look forward to our next Zoom in November, which I'm hoping will be about a number of pop-up book exhibitions that have either recently closed, will currently be on view, or will be upcoming. So as Ellen knows, there are always pop-up book exhibitions, and we want to celebrate those as much as possible. All right. Oh, thanks for your email, Ziad. I'm sure some people. Oh, and you're on the Discord now, right? Yeah, good. So you
Yes, I
can
am.
reach out to people that way too. All right. Well, I guess we'll go and enjoy the rest of our afternoons, evenings, and early mornings. Thank you, April, again for coming. That was amazing.
Thank you.